Dave Letele, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We're very excited to have you in. We're recording this in mid-Jan 2024. Are you a New Year's resolution kind of guy?
I sort of think about it. I set goals and really try and think about what the plans are. Not a huge resolution guy, but I have an online fitness program that goes off around New Year's. So it's very good that other people are New Year's resolution people.
Yeah.
But I do think about goals and set some goals for the year. I've probably done it more so this year.
Plans often go out the window. You had a bit of a hectic morning before this podcast. A lot going on.
I knew I shouldn't have said.
You'll be careful what you say in the preamble.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. Me and James had a good training session, and I got home to get ready for this and sat down on the toilet. My missus texts me, "There's no water." Shit, literally. But
had you started?
I just finised. Luckily, there was still enough water. It wasn't as bad as there's no toilet paper. So I had to, get up. I went to one of our storage places that had a shower, showered up, but took the wrong shorts. So no brush, no gel. But I got here.
I imagine, like, without knowing your story, that every day probably sets out to be a certain way, and then life and stuff happens.
Yeah, I have a good team that are around me to try and keep me organised. A good wife as well, but yeah, I'm not very structured. The only thing that's really structured in my life is training, and that sort of is really to keep my headspace in a good place. But everything else around me, you might start a certain way, but there's always goes off and veers off and on different tangents. So and if something pops up and we can help, we always do. So that's the way we live.
We're going to get to your full story soon, but we wanted to start with a little chat about a guy called David Higgins who had a big role in later in your story. But I sort of wanted to talk about the initial meeting. We had David on the podcast about 3 years ago and loved the way his brain thinks. He just operates on a different wavelength, like such a creative sort of genius. I think a lot of people use a term for him. But you guys,
what did you guys talk about?
Duco, Joseph Parker. He was doing yoga at the time.
Yeah, he came in from the hot yoga studio, like full noise as well.
Vatuvei Cameron, fight of the century. How he sort of got on the map.
But even his humble beginnings as well, because I didn't realise. You only see what you see. I didn't realise he came from a household which didn't have a lot, and his intention was to buy his mum a house.
Yeah, well, he was. We met, I think, in third form. We've been friends ever since. He was a poor white guy, I was a poor brown guy, and we became friends, been friends ever since. He's, a single mother in a state house, and he's come a long way, and he was just really intelligent guy, but just a good friend.
It's an interesting combination in friendship. Like, high school is full of interesting dynamics and pairings, but geeks? Is that an unfair term that you were geeks at high school?
He would never say he was a geek, but I was probably more of a geek than he was. But we all went through phases, and we weren't popular kids. We never got invited to parties or anything like that. But we sort of invited ourselves, and we loved to be bogans and what do you call it? Yobbos. We were yobbos. That's how we termed ourselves, and we were proud of it. We had no girl mates, and we were proud of it. We were just, I'll turn this phone on.
That's him texting, probably telling you, don't talk about my Selwyn College background. Yeah,
so we had a lot of good times, and I always say to surround yourself with good people. And although we were larrikins, and we got up to a lot of no good, we also studied really hard and wanted to be successful. Both done well at school and. Went to university, and I sort of my path went straight a bit, but he was always there for me. So yeah, it was a really. If you saw our group, we were a motley crew. We had me, his Dave, his brother Andrew, and if you think Dave's full on, you want to see his brother.
Are they twins?
Twin brothers, not identical, but Andrew is Dave Higgins times 1,000,000.
Wow,
that full on.
That's a lot.
A lot. You'll know if you ever meet him. Full on guy, but a great guy. We had another guy called Anthony who just moved back from Australia, Pākehā guy, and an Indian mate, and we're all still friends to this day.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
That's so cool. I love what you've gone on to achieve. That you guys both worked in a video shop and was it Mission Day together? Like the conversations that must have
Have you got
happened.
a friend group, like a WhatsApp chat group with that group of high school characters that you still?
Just on Facebook. It's called Day One Boys.
It is too.
Yep.
That's nice.
And yeah, I mean, we've been through some adventures. A lot of them I just won't mention, but it was a lot of adventures. We both worked at the video shop.
Was Angie Gray there as well? Have I got that right?
From
Hodaki?
Yes, she was there.
Some video store that is.
Yeah, and it was funny because I actually got the job before Dave did. Andrew actually applied. His brother applied. He didn't get the job. He worked at the New World in the same facility, and man, we were just Dave. I took it really seriously, and I was like a key holder, like a supervisor. And I try and tell Dave, could put those videos away, please, because I'll fuck off. He never listened. Like he'd never listen.
When we brought up Video Store, I think with Jono and Ben as well, and it was like a step back in time. We talked about those saloon doors with that restricted the pink section with the pink videos. It's like if you were at high school, you technically couldn't be able to.
We didn't have that section, unfortunately. We had no adult. It was more of a family store.
Maybe you didn't have the key for that particular area. Just on that Higgins Letele relationship, how factually accurate is it that you almost set David on his path as a promoter by encouraging him to go and watch When We Were Kings, the Muhammad Ali documentary, where he fell in love with Don King?
Yeah, we went and saw. There's lots of movies that we sort of all had different tastes in movies and also in music, and we went to see that. But I in no way I take any credit for what he's done. He's I remember when he did the David tour, Cameron. I was actually in Australia. And I came back, and I'd never seen anything like it, or felt that kind of hype before. And I remember feeling like an immense sense of pride, and I was so proud of him, and just that night, and knowing what he'd gone through, and he only realized he was starting to make money at a certain time of that day. Up until then, he was thinking, "I'm going bankrupt. This is it." You know what I mean? And so just he's got some balls on him, and even through COVID. Not many event companies lasted through that, and he came out even better.
Yeah, it's a gripping story. If you haven't, go back and check out the Higgins episode.
After this one.
The Fight of the Century stuff is particularly gripping. You're right. Right up until, I think, almost doors open, he wasn't sure if he was going to break even.
Yeah, he was getting constant, text updates from Sky. It was amazing. And just, I remembered some of it up until a certain point because I was just. It's funny with Dave Higgins when he got into events, and he used to invite us to. He'd do like schmoozing events. Like where real small scale. People. He'd invite companies. They call them schmoozing. I don't know. And he used to invite us. And we'd make up our own business cards, and we'd turn up. It was free grog. It was free, so invite us, and he's always good like that. So we turn up and we have our own business card. My business card was Pro Hydro. That was my dad's hydroponic store. But we'd put our business cards, and everyone clips them up here. We would clip ours down on our flies. Just carry on with free. Carry around 6 drinks, 3 in each hand, sculling and fighting with security and getting kicked out of his event. So, but he never got embarrassed of us.
Always invited back.
Invited us back. So it was. He is a good guy.
Love it, and we're gonna meet David again, sort of down the line when you talk about sort of the important role he played a little bit later on. But if we just move it to present day, it might be a question you get asked a bit. But if someone asked you like, what it is you do, we've talked about the manic days and lots going on. What would you answer? What is it that you do?
Oh, really simply, it's help people. However that looks. Primarily we started off as a health group, running free boot camps. Out of COVID, our social side of what we do sprung. It was like we understood that so many people were falling through the cracks, and it started the day before the first lockdown. Remember that? The first one. Mm. How scary that was, the uncertainty. And, I got a message, a call from a friend of mine who's a social worker asking if I could help a mother with 4 children from South Auckland who has no food and money the day before the first lockdown. They couldn't help her. The funding that they have couldn't cover. They were from West Auckland. This family's from South Auckland. The system is so filled with bureaucracy. I call it bureaucrat. It actually stops people from helping people. So she rang me, and I said, of course, I'll help because I can. And we're walking out, the mum's crying. The kids come running up saying, "Mum, we've got food now." And it broke my heart because I understood that that mum represents one of thousands going into a lockdown with no food and money. So that's when we started the social side. So, at the moment we have 3 community gyms, all free. Manukau, Newland, Tukaroa. We have a social supermarket in Tukaroa where people can come and get and shop. So you're giving back people their dignity of choice. They can choose what they want, but you can connect with them and ask what else is going on in your life. What else do you need? We have a food share. I don't call it a food bank. I hate that word. People feel embarrassed to ask for help. They don't want to go to a food bank. Ours is a food share where people come and we help them. We've got a community kitchen where we educate people how to cook and eat healthy on a budget. It's all around education. So we have all these things and not one paying customer. So it's a very stressful business model.
It's a stressful business model, but it's one that has earned you a nomination for New Zealander of the Year. One of 10, I think, semi-finalists, which is an interesting number. Because I think
72 semi-finalists?
Well, I don't know.
Overall.
Yeah.
Overall in all the categories.
Yeah.
So there's 10 in the Kiwi Bank, New Zealander of the Year, 10 finalists. So I think they go down to 3 finalists. And I think February they announced that.
So congratulations on that. It's testament to the work that you're doing. And already, I think, in 2022, local hero.
Yeah, that stuff for me, we don't do it for that, but it helps. It helps our group. It helps the publicity. It helps with funding. It helps with corporate support. It adds more weights and credibility to what you do. Because in the past, people would just think, when we started and trying to go and, get funding and keep this all going, people would just think, oh, he's just he's just a brown guy helping other overweight brown people in a field somewhere, and that's it. He won't hang around. He won't last, and we have lasted and we've grown and we've, got all these facilities now. So,
and I imagine putting yourself through stuff like Dancing with the Stars, to get the message out though as well.
Yeah,
you're putting yourself front and center.
It's about publicity and highlighting what's going on. And Kiwi Bank New Zealander of the Year helps with that. For me, like getting nominated for that, and if I make the finals, and geez, if I win, imagine that. For me, the winning it helps our people. It helps people down at the bottom. It helps kids being born into gangs thinking it's impossible to get out of this. It's impossible to be a success. I'll never have anything nice unless I sell drugs. It gives kids like that a sense of hope. That, man, if this guy can do it, he come from a mongrel mob background, gone through all this crap, in his life, and now he's New Zealander of the Year. It just, to me, that's just about, the most important thing about that is that it inspires others that, hey, this is possible. If he can do it, so can I.
I think this is a really good point to start painting the picture. Like it's a great snapshot of where we are, and the beauty of this that we've created in this podcast is the long form element of it, which allows you to tell the story in the depth which it deserves.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could go right back to the start and you could help paint the picture of young Dave and what life looked like.
Yeah. I'll just finish on that Dancing with the Stars because I don't want to let that go. That Dancing with the Stars was a nightmare.
Which, before you go any further, one of my favourite shows, that and Celebrity Treasure Island. So if you can get on that, I'm in.
No more. You're interviewing, a third place Dancing with the Stars. So it was a tough show to do because what you're seeing in terms of the reality, it's actually not reality, but the fun part was the dancing on the night. And as soon as you finish and you get hammered by the judges, those types of shows, they already have an idea of who's going to win, and there was things like when I got there, it was funny because they were starting to dress me up in in island wear, and I was thinking, no one else is dressed in their cultural outfits. And I've been around. I'm not dumb, and I realized at that point I'm here to be the brown guy, ticks a box for funding. We all know how that works, and then they said to me, we want you to be hip hop, a mood board for photos. And I said, wait on, I'm over 40 years old. I'm not going to be hip hop or gangster, that's not me.
Yeah.
And then I went out and did my photo, and the photo shoot. I went, gangster, all right. Went out and I said, sick fucking hell, you know.
how's the reaction in the studio after that?
I just said, you know, you guys know my story, you know, or don't you know my story? I've you know, fought and worked hard to break out of that. I'm not being anything that you want me to be. I'm being myself, and I'm only here to talk about our work, you know. So it was good that Sharon and Clint, the hosts, they're really amazing, and they believe in our work. So I said, you know, Clint always did the interviews after before the judges would score, and I said to him, I'm not here to talk about dancing. I'm only here for the video you play of my work before I dance and the interview after. So these are the questions that we should ask. I don't want to talk about dancing. I'm trying my hardest in dancing out of respect for my partner, but I'm not here for dancing, you know, and it was really good. So it took our platform, it gave us a platform to take our work to a whole new, broader audience, right? So it wasn't just Pacifica Māori. It was open people's eyes that had no idea there were hungry, starving children in South and West Auckland or anywhere poor around the country. It opened their eyes to understand that not the choice is not the same for everybody. So it was a powerful platform for that. So I am grateful for that show. But yeah, it was a crazy time. It was bloody hard.
Yeah,
hard work.
Was it a click straight away when you did see the wardrobe and you did kind of see where
I knew straight away.
Yeah, wow.
And I was nervous because I'm not a celebrity. I don't consider myself a celebrity at all. I don't see myself in that light. So getting asked to do that, I was right out of my comfort zone.
And are you a dancer?
No, I'm not a dancer.
Two-step and lean at the bar?
Yeah, you know, it's when I used to drink, it would take me a good few drinks to start dancing. And I'd normally dance like that guy on Once the Warriors that got kicked out by Jake the Muss.
Well, I'm a non-drinker now as well, and I'm the same. Like, it's a lot to get me out onto the dance floor these days.
But, you know, having 9 knee operations, I was having to take so much painkillers to get through it because the amount of training you're doing every day, you know, it was hectic.
What's harder, learning the cha-cha or the foxtrot or a BBM session?
They're both pretty hard. They're both pretty hard. But yeah, having to be coordinated and bending your knees and holding lunges was pretty tough.
You got to smile the whole way through as well, right? They judge you on the. Sorry, I know. I know you
Jay
hate when I go
goes
into
down
the
dancing with the stars.
niche areas of celebrity and reality TV, or scripted reality TV.
Yeah, no, it was a good experience, but it's not my first, as Winston would say, rodeo. And I sort of knew what I was there for, but I wasn't going to play that game.
But did it work for BBM?
Worked for BBM. It was amazing for BBM, so I'm happy I did it. I would never do anything else like that again, but it worked for BBM. And I remember my last boxing match when I fought Manu, and after I woke up, I realised there's got to be easier ways to raise awareness. And how funny is it that Manu now works for us?
Amazing.
So, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we'll talk about the power of second chance a little bit later on.
Yeah, so
sorry, bro.
No,
it's a great tangent.
You're all good. No, that's really cool. And I know that you've told the story a lot, and you're very good at it. And I was just hoping for our audience that doesn't know, you know, back to the beginning and growing up in New Zealand and what your life looked like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure if I'll talk like no one knows the story.
Yeah,
but,
there will be people out there. There'll be people that know who you are, but they don't know how you've got here.
Yeah, so I was born. My father was the president of the Auckland chapter of the Mongrel Mob. You know, so I was born into something it's out there. A lot of things I thought was normal. It wasn't until later on in life I realized it wasn't. You know, my father was he came from a really strict Seventh-day Adventist household. My grandma and grandpa were part of that initial migration from Samoa to set up over here to give their family a better shot at life, right? So I think he come over in the 50s. And very strict. I don't know if you've heard of Seventh-day Adventist religion. It's very strict. And you add Samoan to it, it's about 1,000 times stricter. So he would say, you know, he was at church but not in church. And it just drove him away, really. You know, he ended up, I think when he was 9 or 10, burnt down his school, Viscount Primary, burnt it down. I think half of it got burnt down. So part of that school's newer than the other parts. And he stayed to watch it burn. So it's bad enough he did it, but then he stayed, and that's when he became a ward of the state at 10 years old. most of his teenage years, I think. Joined the mob when he was 16, became the president at 19. So to be the president at that age, you have to be pretty out there, I guess. He doesn't really talk about it, and neither do we together. But his trade, what he did for a living was rob banks. That's what he did to put food on our table. He was a bank robber. And at 5 years old, he got caught, and you always get caught. My first memory of the police was when I was a 3-year-old, and I asked my mother how old I was. That's how I know I was. She said you were 3 when that happened. My first memory of the police was when they raided my house in Hamilton and stole all our Christmas presents. That was my first memory of the police. Can you imagine that? And I understand now, that those presents, why
Santa might not have delivered them to the Letele household.
They weren't stealing my presents. It's called confiscating my presents. So it was, and what had happened is my mum and some of her friends had gone up to Auckland and went on a spree of burglaries, and brought back all the presents and for us, so that's why they took it. But from that age, I hated the police. Can you understand why? Anyone that goes through that, we don't know. That's what people talk about choice. I have a lot of arguments with politicians and wealthier people who have no idea. Not their fault. They just have no idea, and they talk to me about personal choice. It's their choice. These lazy brown people. It's their choice. The thing what they don't understand is choice implies equal starting points. For so many people like me, kids born into shit circumstances where they have no choice. We do not have a choice about where we're born into, and we're born so far behind the start line we can't see it. That's not equal. So, so that everything that they're talking about, they have an equal chance, it's not equal. We're starting from so far back. And then you imagine families that are just starting from generations and generations. They've never seen success. They've never known what it's like to be successful. They've never had anyone that's gone to university. They've never had anyone that's been a success in their jobs. They just don't know anything else but crime. We're working with youth who wouldn't even think it's possible to have a nice car and not be a drug dealer, and that's what we were brought up in, but we were lucky. We still had other good family around us, so when he got sent away, 10 years he got sentenced to. I got shipped off to Australia. My father organised to move me with my grandparents. It was meant to be me and my sister Vicky, my young sister Vicky, who's passed away now of cancer. She would have been 43 last year. And I guess we can talk about that later, the whole thing with her. But she was meant to move with me to Australia. My grandparents were so embarrassed of my dad and my other uncle, my Uncle Lay was also a mobster, that they moved countries. Anyone who knows churches, especially Pacifica churches, understand what it's like. They're embarrassed. They moved countries. They were meant to take me and my sister, but my mum kidnapped my sister off my grandparents so that she could keep her. And then I got moved to Australia, and I lived over there for 6 years while my dad was doing his time. Moved back when he got out, and my mum and dad are still together. And I should say my parents have changed. I always forget to say that, but they've changed now. They run a foundation called Grace Foundation, one of the biggest bail houses in the country. They run that. My sister founded it. My late sister Vicky founded it to give people out of prison somewhere to stay and have faith-based rehab and programs, because prison is not rehab. We all need to understand that. This bloody ACT government, this ACT party is you cannot imprison your way out of poverty. You can't reduce gang numbers by throwing more people in prison, because prison is the biggest breeding ground for gangs. People are not going to prison and coming out better citizens. Unless there's rehab programs that actually give them a shot at becoming and give them a glimpse at what life could be like, and the belief and hope that it's possible, and that's what Grace does, But it took a while. When I came back, I hated being poor, but I didn't want to go down the same path as my dad, my mum, or my other uncle. My other uncle, Uncle Lay, was also a mobster, lived with us when he wasn't in prison. He was with the New Zealand chapter, and he was more the out there one. It's funny because we were poor, but we always look forward to his Christmas presents. They're always good, And I remember one day he came home, And remember back in the old days when you needed coins to play spaces?
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, and he came back and he threw us a big bag of coins. Me and my sister Vicky threw us a big bag of coins and goes, go play some spaces. And me and Vicky were walking up Queen Street, big smiles on our faces. Two little brown kids walking up Queen Street, massive smiles, so happy, with a big bag of coins, But the only problem was I still had the name of the bank on the bag. So it was, but that's, we thought that was normal. But that's the problem.
Just jumping in there, there's another uncle as well, isn't there? But he was at the other end of the spectrum.
Uncle Ula.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uncle Ula. So that's how I ended up going to Samhain. So that's what I mean when I say we're lucky I still had good family. A lot of people don't have that. They don't have any family that can help them. They don't have any good friends that can help them. They're just stuck and surrounded by shit, But I still had good extended family. Uncle Ula actually done well. He took a different path. I think he's the eldest brother. He ended up being the boss of duty-free shoppers back in the day, and he bought a mansion in Mission Bay, but then got promoted to go and run it in Asia, had to go live in Singapore. So he let us stay in this mansion in Mission Bay for free. And it was funny because everyone thought we were rich. It was a big house, but, we hardly had furniture to fill it, So, but that's how I ended up going to Samhain and meeting up with Dave was through living there. I stayed all my high school years at that house.
Were you a studious kid? Did you enjoy going to school?
I was motivated because I hated being poor. So I always talk about to people to use, adversity and struggle that you go through as your fuel to be better. And I used it I wanted to be a success. And I had the role models of my Uncle Ula, who was a success in business. So I wanted to be like him, but I saw a lot of other,
Because you started on the path of tertiary study, right?
Yeah, I went to uni. I did a Bachelor of Commerce, part of it. But, so when I say I went to uni, that's the problem. I just went there.
Set up shadows. Yeah, I'm sure you frequented shadows.
Shadows, I got lost in there for a bit. I partied a lot, and I was proud that I was at uni, but my life just took a detour. My father, who got tired of being poor, and to me, it's no accident that there's a massive increase in crime at the moment, as there's a massive increase in poor people. It's hard. The cost of living is through the roof, and there's more poor people. Amongst those poor people are desperate people, and I always think, if you're looking at your children, and they're fucking starving, and you look, their eyes are looking up at you, and they're fucking starving, and you have no good friends that can help you. They have no good family that can help you, and your only option that you think that you have is to go out and sell drugs or rob. What are you going to do? That's what upsets me about, what are you going to do? Any parent who gives a fuck about their kids is going to do whatever that it takes, and if you don't, you have no options that are available that what you think, right? There's no friends that you can go to and ask for a loan, no family. You are going to go and do what you got to do, and that's the problem, and so that was my father, and driven by material things. And I always say to people, material things we have to understand don't mean anything. Of course, they're nice to have, but they don't mean anything. So many people are driven by these material things that give their kids the latest stuff, that drive the nicest cars, and then they're driven by it, so they'll do it by the wrong means. And my father, who exactly what happened, he was tired of not being able to give us nice stuff, and he was a bank robber. At the time, he was a courier driver, but now he tried his hand. He wanted to do a different trade and make a bit more money, so he became a gardener.
Green thumb, eh? A little green thumb.
What do you reckon he was growing, and then he got into a large scale, I could talk about it because he got caught. It was a massive hydroponics setup. And I worked at one of his warehouses in Mangere, Tidal Road, Mangere. And we were security, me and my cousin Conan, security at this place. And we weren't the normal security where you call the police. We're a security where you have to stop people from trying to steal your shit. So we had a shotgun there. And it was funny because we weren't allowed to sleep at night. We had to be up, so we used to pretend to play like army games, like Rambo and stuff like that. But no, these are real guns you're playing with, so, but we did stuff just to keep us up. And I never forget the phone call, though, I got from my mum one day saying, "Don't go to work today. We've been raided." And that phone call, it's something I talk a lot about to at-risk youth or vulnerable families thinking of that, taking a shortcut. My heart sank, and unless that's happened to you, it's hard to explain. But I was scared, and I was worried for my mum and my two younger sisters, because in this life, this gangster life, they glamorize it, and they show the bling, they show the bikes, the cars, the girls. They glamorize that lifestyle, and it lures vulnerable kids in poor areas. If you're a poor kid living in a deprived area, you're not that good at school, you're not that good at sport, and your idea of success, as all of us is to have money, to be able to support your family, buy things. So I don't blame these kids, because all they have to aspire to is these gangsters and drug dealers. What else do they have to aspire to? That's why I get frustrated when people who make it out don't come back and show these kids this is possible. You can do this without having to do all these things, And I remember speaking to Grace Foundation, and they do amazing work. There's some heavy hitters, people, heavy, big time gang members, all different clubs, and they're all living, harmoniously under my father and my uncle in this, doing great stuff there. But I remember doing a speech to them. I said, "We know this is not glamorous. We know this life is not glamorous. So we've got to stop glamorizing it. It's because that's how we can break these cycles. We don't want our kids going through what we're going through. Do you want your kids going through what you're going through, getting treated like shit by these prison guards and police officers? Do you want your kids going through that, going to prison? Of course you don't. So even if you're in the gang, doesn't mean your kids have to be. You can break that. You can break that cycle, And when Dad went away, I lost the plot. It's the first time in my life that I really, and it's only been twice, and touch wood, I don't know if it doesn't happen again, but I really went through a dark patch then. When he went away, I quit university. I quit the job at the video shop. I ended up living in a tinny house in Mangere, 36 Plumley Crest. It's now a Grace Foundation community home. But for a long time, it was it was in the family, our extended family, friends of the family. It was an old school house. And we stayed there selling drugs, doing drugs, and just carrying on. And I just remember being so angry. Man, I was filled with rage, and I was so angry at my father that this had happened and that he'd left my mum, my two sisters, and I was just, walking around with chips on both my shoulders, and hating the world, hating the system, and hating myself, and I was just trying to build this reputation of being bad, because I was by no means a gangster at all, but I thought that I have to be this way to try and build this reputation to let people know that I'm still here. My uncle's gone. He's serving 15 years on Buttabean. He was gone. My dad's gone back to prison, but I'm still here. Don't come near my mum, and I was out there, and I came home one night after a party, really drunk and high, and I was just so, I didn't want to be here. I was just over everything, and I ended up walking off from the house after having an argument with my cousins, and the windows were all smashed in. It was a fucking nightmare. And I remember walking up to Massey Road, walking down Massey Road, and the cars were coming past, and I was just veering into them. I didn't have the courage to walk into one, but I was veering, and and I was just hoping that one wouldn't see me and fucking hit me. I just was in such a dark place. My cousin ended up catching up with me, brought me back to the house, walked into the kitchen, and we're arguing, and Dave Higgins was there, a few of my mates were there, and I pulled out a steak knife and I put it into my chest. And when it happened, I was like, fuck, what happened? What did I do this for? And got taken to hospital. I remember waking up in hospital, and my mum's crying, and I'm just trying to console her, saying, "Mum, I didn't mean, I was just drunk. Don't worry about it." And then later on they try to bring my father in with 2 prison guards. I don't want to really talk to him. And then they bring in a psychiatrist to evaluate you. You know, when you do things like this. And I did a lot of psychology. I enjoyed psychology at uni, so I did psych as a social science and psych 101. So I told this lady what she wanted to hear, and I was out. That's what it was. That's how easy it was. Should it be that easy? You know.
Was that a conscious decision to try to take your life? Or was it you weren't really
Or to feel something? Or
I don't know, man. I just didn't. I was not happy. You know, I was not happy with where my life was. Yeah, maybe to feel something. I don't know.
This may sound like an obvious question, but do you carry the physical scar of that in your chest to this day?
There's a little lump here, and I feel it every morning.
Yeah.
And every speech I deliver is a reminder to me of how far I've come. You know, and it's very lucky that it missed vital, you know, any of my vital, my heart or lungs or whatever. It's just lucky. But I always think it's a miracle that I'm not dead or in prison. So I don't waste that miracle. You know, I'm here to help as many people as I can. I got out of hospital and I was sitting on the doorstep of this tinny house, and I remember it like it was yesterday, where I just think, man, you know, I'm not religious, but I have faith in God. And I just stared at the sky and went, surely God, I'm meant for more than this. I had no idea what it was, but I knew it wasn't this. I knew it was not selling drugs, doing drugs, and just being a fucking idiot. I knew it wasn't that. I knew I was meant for more, you know, and we all are, you know, and I always encourage my people, and by my people, I don't just mean Māori Pacifica. I'm half Māori from Maniapoto and half Samoan from Manu. But anyone going through the struggle of life, thinking it's impossible, poverty, depression, suicide, obesity, all those things don't know colour, they affect all of us. Unfortunately for my people, Māori and Pacifica are overrepresented in all these stats, but it affects everybody. And I always encourage anyone going through that struggle, I always let them know that you're my people. And I advocate and fight for you, you know, to let you know it's possible. And I encourage my people not to stay down and wait for the system to help us. But we wait for the system, we're waiting all our fucking lives. You know, you got to get up, ask for help. You know, I always say I had a psychiatrist ask me last year, is there anything more we could have done for you when that happened? I said, yes, you could have been more thorough. You could have asked again. You know, I encourage everybody, not just ask once, ask again. Check in on your friends and your family. Everyone watching this, when you check in on your friends and your family, don't just ask once, ask again. Because you never know what's going on behind the smile. You know, I said that part in a speech one day, and I was giving the speech, to a group from Hawke's Bay. Some of them were mobsters, and you know, which is we connect obviously. And I remember talking about that, and a lady just started crying. One of the ladies started crying. I said, "Sis, what's up?" She said, "I never asked again. My son's no longer here. So not only do you have to live with her son leaving that way, you have to live with the thing, what if I'd asked? You know, what if I'd asked again? Would they still be here if I'd asked again?" So I encourage everybody watching, ask again, you know, and ask, you know, never be embarrassed to ask for help, because so many times people think it's a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of strength. Ask for help and be willing to accept help, you know, and get up and start. And that's where my first rebuild started from that doorstep.
Did you ask for help at that moment?
I was willing to accept it. You know, I was lucky again that I had my Uncle Ola, and I was funny. I often don't talk about this. That's good, I guess. It's good. It's long form. But I was rolling tinnies. So this didn't happen a miracle straight away.
Oh, yeah,
you know, I was still selling drugs.
Yeah.
You know, like I was at the house and rolling tinnies, you know, and it was actually, we had no fucking power. So I was trying to sell some drugs to put the power on. And it was back in those days, it was prepay power. So you'd prepay your power, you know, put your power on $20 at a time. But if you know, you know. But
it's wild though, because you're saying these things and like they make sense to me because that's how the islands still operate. But there'll be a lot in New Zealand that didn't realise that was actually a thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was just operating a postpaid model.
Prepay power. But I was in the room rolling up some tinnies, and my cousin, Uncle Ola's son, my cousin Jude, they were the wealthy cousins. So back then, no one really had cell phones. We didn't have a house phone, but he had a cell phone. He'd come round, And it was funny because I remember it, and he come in, and I was just like, man, smell this. This is some good shit here. You know, I was so happy, you know, that we had some good product, you know.
Yeah.
And then he gave me the phone, and it was his dad, my uncle, and he said, pack your bags, you're going to Australia. So I've got no money, and I don't have a passport, it's expired. He sent over Jude money for emergency, like 3-day passport, and I was gone. You know, so I was in Australia, and with living with my aunties, my dad's sisters, and rebuilding. You know, that was the first rebuild. But you see what I mean here. I still had good family.
Yep.
So there's so many people don't have that, and that's what we do in BBM, right? We are that support to give them a hand up to help people. You know, so people don't start from equal starting points, but if you just give them a hand, and if you just support them to get up, it's possible. You know, and not everyone, people take that for granted. Not everyone has that. We have to understand that. You know?
So you get on a plane, you go to Aussie. Is there a plan, or is it just get out of the situation that I'm in New Zealand?
It wasn't even up to me. You know, obviously, like all my family must be, you know, I never really talked about it, but they must have been worried about what I was up to. My dad's, I think at that time he was doing Home D in a little town called Kiowa. So I'm not really with him, and you know, they must have been worried, I guess. And so the only one that had resource was my Uncle Ola, and they just literally plucked me out. And I remember, man, I went to a payphone and I spoke to my dad about it. I was so angry. I didn't want to go. You know, I remember just smashing the phone. You know, the phone booths. You know, back in those days, just talking to him and just finishing, just smashing the phone. I just had so much anger, man. I was in a bad way.
So you're early 20s?
I was 21.
Yeah, so there'd probably be people out here not understanding that in like far Samoa culture, when an elder tells you that you're going to do something, here's a ticket, you're going to Aussie.
Yeah.
Like I can understand that you didn't want to go, but you're going.
Yeah, I had to go. And that was it. Went over to Australia and started waterproofing roofs with my uncle. And that was hard work, man. And I piled on the weight. So, you know, I came back, lost heaps of weight. I think I was there for a year. I came back and sort of got back into playing league. I'd lost all this weight, so I got back into playing league and sort of went on another journey.
Because that's a part of the story we haven't told. Like you were New Zealand schools and league, right? Like a very good league player. And did the sport element of it, did that add something? You know, you've got these people that support you. Did you find that in sport as well?
Yeah, sport to me was another way out, like a lot of us. You know, Pacifica, Māori, really anyone poor, sport is like a way out. You know, for me, I looked at rugby league as my way out, that I could have some money, look after my family. So I trained really hard. I ended up, you know, I played Auckland under 18s, made New Zealand schoolboys. And I didn't start league till very late. I think I had a little stint when I was 5, and then I got shipped off to Australia. Didn't play anything over there because Seventh-day Adventists didn't do anything on Saturday. And so picked it up again when I was about 15 at Mount Wellington. And that's when I started and chased that league dream for a long time.
So if I got it right, you go to Aussie for a stint for a year, you come home, you play a bit of league, and then league takes you back to Australia?
Yeah, so I'd lost heaps of weight. And
what's heaps of weight?
Like I think I'd lost about maybe 60, 70 kilos.
Yeah, that's heaps. That's heaps of weight.
And I got in because I ended up, so when I made Schoolboy Kiwis, and there was some Australian clubs looking at me, and my dad's like pumping me. You know, like, man, we train like.
Can you pump your own tires and tell us who are some of your contemporaries in that Schoolboys League team that people may.
So when I was Auckland, we had, you know, Clinton Torpy, Henry Farfili was in the school, Henry Perenara, Leslie Vanacolo.
Oh.
So it was all sort of that era. Ali Lautiti and them, they were just a year. So when I was schoolboy, they were junior Kiwis. But it was around that era.
Yeah.
And things were going good. I thought, man, my life's going this direction. I know where I'm headed. But then I made a Māori rep team, and we were training on a field, potholes everywhere, no lights, And I used to do those, those big, massive Benji Marshall sidestep, long before Benji Marshall. I did this massive, and I was, I was second row prop doing these big sidesteps, and I did one of these, scissor sidesteps, and my leg landed in a pothole and just shattered every ligament in my knee. And back then, it's not like now where the operations are really good and you'll be okay. You sort of know, okay, you're still going to be okay. Just go get a recon, be all right. Back then, it still wasn't. You never, when that happens, you're never the same. There was the technology, I guess, wasn't as good, but so that sort of halted the league career for a while. But when I came back from Australia, I'd lost all this weight, and my knee feels all right. I'd had an operation after I did it, but I never played again. And then it fell through, and I just got back into it. And then, ended up going to made New Zealand A, but got injured again. But it wasn't as bad. I ended up going to North Sydney Bears. I missed out on that New Zealand A tour of Great Britain, but went to North Sydney Bears. From there, went to France, played for Carcassonne. From there, came back here, played for the Marlins and the Bartercard, and then went to also Waikawa Bay in the Bartercard, and then went back to Australia, played for Cootamundra, bush footy. From there, got signed to Manly, did a preseason with Manly. The hardest preseason of my life. When I went to Australia, I realised how far behind we were in New Zealand on the mental toughness side. We're catching up. We're quite catching up now, but this is early 2000s. And man, my first thing of North Sydney was I was injured. I just come off an injury, and so you had the injured crew, and you're not out running, and they pull out the rowing machines. And then when they pulled out the rowing machines, they put all the buckets next to it. I said, what the fuck are the buckets for? They said, it's for when you spew. I said, what? What do you mean? Trust me, you're going to find out. And then we're in a line, we're doing these rowing sprints here. It's torture when you're watching it. You just watch, and then there's one guy, the guy before me, he rowed and he collapsed. So on the backstroke, he just collapsed. And the trainers came and picked them up and said, next. Okay. Fuck. It was just different. The training, the mental toughness was just insane.
But did you enjoy that challenge at that time of your life?
I enjoyed the mental side of that type of training because you're questioning things. You question. That's why what we do in BBM. I want to make you question your choices of coming here. Or I want you to question giving up, because when you don't, and when you're supported not to, that's how you get that mental toughness. You get a little bit more mentally tough. You get a little bit more resilient. You can stop and have a break and have a breather, but you keep going. Because
you've been described as a beast by some of your members in the at BBM, and I imagine that starts in those days, those difficult physical sessions.
Everything we teach in BBM is all from those days. It's all sports psychology. It's just apply it to life. If you got through this, apply that same mindset to your life. When tough times come in life, are you going to stop or are you going to keep going? And that's what it's about. And I never forget the hardest preseason I've ever done was with Manly, and we were only in the part-time squad. We weren't big time. We were in part-time, and what part-time was, you trained still shitloads, but you had to have you still had to have a job. You weren't getting paid unless you played. And we did one session at the sand dunes where they film Home and Away, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And this guy turned up in Speedos and a kayak. Now there's no land around. Yeah. He's just turned up in a kayak, and they call him the Sandhill Warrior, And he jumped out and goes, "Let's go, boys!" And we had to run, and we're holding medicine ball, which we weren't allowed to drop. And we ran to the sand dunes, ran around the sand dunes for what seemed like an hour, running up and around, up and around. And then they made us do shuttle runs up this massive sand dune, and the cones, instead of cones, you go up to one cone, run back, up to the second cone, run back. Instead of that, they used drink bottles, water bottles, but you weren't allowed to drink any water. Yeah. So the temptation is there every time you go to the cone just to get a bottle and drink it. They say, if you touch that drink bottle, you're out of here, you're cut. And you believed it because you were not a full-time, big-time player. You were a part-time guy trying to make it. So, but that was like building here. And I remember he came up to us at the end. He goes, "This is about life. You can walk into any situation. You can walk out onto the field, stare at your opponent, stare at the opposition in the eye, and know there is no fucking way you trained harder than me. Not possible. I'm going to beat you because there's no possible way you trained harder than I did. And that's what we do in BBM and what we teach, right? Is that I'm not fast by no means. My body's ripped. But then, we've got James over here, he's lost 130 kilos, all these different people. Well, not the fastest, strong. There's always going to be faster, stronger, fitter than you. But never let anyone outwork you.
Did that structure and discipline during the rugby league years keep you on the straight and narrow off the field? Like, were you a good law-abiding citizen during that time?
Yeah, I was. I was just motivated to be a success. I wanted to be a success at whatever I'm doing. I try hard. It just didn't eventuate, and I ended up playing in bush footy, which you could make a lot of money playing bush footy, more than what you can as an aspiring. You only really make money if you're playing NRL, or even if you're just playing for feeder clubs for that club, you're not making hardly anything. So you can make more money playing in the bush, and that's what I ended up doing. And it was tough. I'd work in Sydney. Friday as a storeman, I'd finish on Friday. I'd jump on a train, which was 6 hours on a train to Cootamundra. I'd get there. I'd play the next day, and then I'd jump on a truck. There was a truck driver that would go, and I'd jump on the truck. I'd go to his base in Sydney and catch a cab back. And that was my routine every weekend to earn $500 on top of my wage.
Yeah.
So, just to earn extra money,
A lot of admin there.
But I was just driven. But then I ended up getting a job in Cootamundra, moved my whole family there, and that's sort of was the next phase of my life.
Yeah, the next phase is this into the supermarkets.
Yeah,
sort of years, and I've sort of heard a few interviews where you perhaps don't talk about this in as much detail as.
Yeah, I don't like talking about it, to be honest. It's just a whole shitload of bad memories, and I really just fucked it all up. That's pretty much what it is. I worked really hard. I remember that I worked in a supermarket as a storeman. Went into the office, ended up doing payroll. I went from there onto the floor, became floor manager. Then I became store manager. And the owner, it was independent stores over there, and the owner said to me one day, if you work really hard, one day you'll have one of these. And I just thought, I wonder how long it will really take me if I went fucking hard. That's what I did. I went really just worked my ass off, and I got an opportunity to own one. And just totally fucked it up. And that's what I mean. Like people, you see it all the time with athletes or rappers, people from where I come from who have no idea how to handle money. All of a sudden you have money, and if you don't know how to handle it, you are in serious trouble. You are in serious trouble because you more times, when you see like MC Hammer, remember him? Millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and he lost it all. How? It's easy. It is easy to lose all your money when you have no idea about taxes and you're so generous.
You had no one guiding you at that point, or you wouldn't listen to anyone?
I had no one. Like I listened to my uncle, but he wasn't there. It wasn't in the country. So my uncle, he started in supermarkets. So I'd get a lot of advice from him. But it's not hard to do, man. If you don't have that support around you, and you just don't know how to handle it, it's a slippery slope, and then you start doing things.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask.
I'm not going to talk too much about it because I'm not going to. But you start doing things to compensate, and this is what I've spoken in a lot of prisons, where a lot of the men I've spoken to in prison, well, all of them, took a shortcut. And it starts off just once. I'll just do this once, just to pay the bills, just to put food on the table. It's never once.
Well, it's like the McDonald's. If you're on a diet, it's like going to McDonald's. Yeah. I'll just go now.
Shortcuts are always a long way around, and I went the fucking long way around. I had to learn the hard way, and it was a fucking nightmare. Man, I just got up to. I just fucked it all up. Like I said, I can't go into it because. It was, I just fucked it all up.
My question was going to be, was the loss of the supermarket the first domino that set you off to, you've had a couple of rock bottoms, but the rockest bottomest before you come back to New Zealand?
Yeah. Yep. I was I just remember I said to myself, and I always encourage, if you go through this, and I pray people watching don't go through it, but if you go through something like this, and it's inevitable in business, you know, a lot of people will go through this. I just want you to know that it's okay. You know, it'll be all right. You know, don't think that you have to take a shortcut, or even take your life. You know, it'll be all right. You've just got to be willing to struggle again, and to go back to the drawing board and work hard again. If you've got there before, you can do it again. Look at all these really successful guys. I mean, even Donald Trump, how many times has he been bankrupt? All these really, really successful guys have gone through that many times, but they kept going, you know, and I always say I want people to understand it'll be all right and don't be tempted. That's when I sort of went, it was this, you know, the second time that I got up to no good, you know, and I went back to what I saw as a kid right up until my early 20s. You know, I never saw my parents, when times got tough financially, I didn't see them budget or struggle, you know, cut off sky or stop going out to eat. I was surrounded by warehouses of cars and all these nice things that come about from drug dealing and robbing, you know. So when times got tough for me, I thought to myself, there is no way that I'm going to go back to having nothing. There's no way that I'm going to go back to my kids not having anything material. You know, material things don't mean shit. But back then, I was driven by it for my children. And we use, a lot of the gangsters that I've known in the past and know today, we use our children, and as justification for all the bad shit we're doing. I'm doing this for my kids. I'm doing this to give them nice stuff. I'm doing this to send them to nice schools. I'm doing this to give them everything I didn't have, which is total rubbish, because all it's doing is eventually it's going to take you away from your children. It's just lucky if it doesn't. You know, it's a miracle, you know, if it doesn't. And I learnt, you know, and I ended up, couldn't even live with my family because I was doing too many bad things, and I was worried that if people come to get me, I didn't want my family around, and that's exactly what happened. You know, again, that's probably where I'll leave it. People come to get me, and it was a scary time. And I remember I talked to people, to youth especially, who think it's cool to be a gangster. I didn't think I was cool in that moment. You know, having a gun to your head, I didn't think I was cool. I just thought, what am I up to? You know, when it happened, I was on the toilet, you know, and I heard all this noise, yelling, and I finish up, I get up, I open the door and I had a gun at my head. And I didn't think I was cool. I just thought, fuck, thank God I just went to the toilet. You know, I would have shit my pants, you know. It was scary, you know, and that was the moment of the rebuild. It was not right away, but I was in a gym by myself at night, and I just thought, man, again, it's funny when times get tough, you call on God, eh? You know, but I just said, surely God, there's more for me than this. You know?
And then David Higgins rings.
Yeah, it wasn't so much longer after that. Higgins rings and he said, I'm running the NRL 9s. What are you up to? Would you like to come? I'm going to get the boys back together. And, you know, and I said, well, I've got no money, no passport, and I can't fit in the economy. He goes, what do you mean? I said, oh, man, I can't stay over the phone, but I'm pretty fucked over here. And he said, all right. And so we had one of my best mates, our best mates, still lives in Sydney. He sent him some money to get me an emergency passport. One day passport. Went to meet him, went to the passport office in Sydney. One day, paid for the passport, and I was business class trip back to Auckland. He picked me up, and it was funny because I told him I was overweight, but he didn't believe me. You know, and then when he saw me, he goes, what the fuck's happened to you? And he just picked up his new Audi RS7, and he was waiting for me, and he goes, don't get in yet, I want to put the seats back. So worried I was going to break his seats.
If you had to put a number on, if you're okay with it, like at your biggest, what did you weigh?
I was about 210 kilos, yeah. Yeah, I was, but it wasn't really the physical. I was really in bad shape mentally. I still got that passport, the photo. You know, I was in a bad way, and yeah, we were there at the 9s, and I was just, you know, I was sweating walking 5 meters. It was all of us boys there, and it's funny with the 9s. I didn't really watch any of the games outside. I just watched them in the VIP areas because I was so hot. You know, in February, and it was boiling hot, and I was sweating, and I was just. All I remember those times doing drugs in the toilets. Like, you know, and it's crazy the way life works. And now I'm friends with Nick Sortner, who's the CEO of Eden Park, and I talked to him about that. We were walking past the toilet. I said, "Man, I've done some drugs in that." And he goes, "He's so straight, you know. He's such a good guy, but he's straight."
It doesn't happen.
Don't tell me that, Dave. And but you know, then a few years later to come back and do the NRL nines. Do the world's biggest boot camp at Eden Park. Just shows again what's possible. Because man, I was in bad shape, and I remember Dave at the end. We're at an after party. It was stinking hot at this nightclub. I had no shirt on. My stomach's hanging out. Sweating bricks. And Dave just, you know, he's sussing me out over the whole weekend. You know, just sort of trying to find out what's going on. And that's what he said to me. He goes, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I've got to go back." I said, "Just got to go hard for a bit and I'll be back." And he said, no, I'm going to help you. But I'm not helping you till you move back. And that's how I moved back.
Why do you think he wouldn't give up on you?
Oh, it's just you know, we've been through some real murky waters together. And we've just, you know, that's what friends are, you know, true friendship, that's what it's about. You know, people who are there not just to enjoy the good times, they're there for you in the bad times. Yeah, and that's a true friend. You know, and that's what he is. You know, and so, you know, he was just there. It was and that's what, you know, that was the start. That was the start of the latest rebuild, the start of the Buttabean.
And he kept checking in on you as well, right?
Yeah, Dave never wanted to. And again, I say to people, always check in, ask again, because he never wanted to leave me alone. He's always checking in. You know, I remember one time he got kicked out of home, and he stayed at I stayed in a sleep out in Clendon at a Grace Foundation community home. I was living on a mattress on the floor. My housemates was one rapist and robber just out of prison. That was my life. And he got kicked out and he had to sleep, and right next to me on this bed on the floor. And he never got any sleep because I kept I had sleep apnea. So he goes, "Dave, how are you not dead? You stopped breathing for like minutes." And then he said to me, Joe Parker was fighting in Germany one time, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come?" Because he didn't want to leave me alone. He was always checking in. Because at that time, I was still very suicidal. I'd always, quite often, all the time, because I didn't have my children. And I just remember the last moments with my kids, and me and my partner, my ex, broke up, and it was all my fault. I was not a good partner, and I was not a good example. And as she was leaving with the children, my son Tavita, he looked back at me, and I never fucking forget it, because the look he gave me pierced my soul. It was a look of, like, he knew at that young age he wasn't going to see me again for a while. And it fucking broke my heart, man. That's where I understood what really matters. It wasn't the money, it wasn't material things, it was my family. And that look was a nightmare that I'd have. It would play over and over in my head, but I used it to fuel me. I used it to be better, to exercise, to work out. And Dave, when he said, "Do you want to come to Germany?" I said, "Of course, and a free trip." And I started walking, and it's funny because he said to me, "Well, you better train hard because you're not coming business. You are going in the fucking economy." And I started walking twice a day, and, I was going, I didn't care. And it's so funny because coming on the plane, it was the Melbourne to Dubai part of the trip, the longest part of the trip. And as I was walking on the plane, I still couldn't walk through the aisle because I was still too big. I had to walk through on an angle. And, my stomach's brushing against all the passengers as I'm walking past. And there was only one empty seat right at the back, which was mine. And me and that guy, we locked eyes from a long way back. That look of sheer horror. Yeah. Oh, shit.
Please not me, please not me, please not me,
it's
please
like,
not me.
If you're not in business and you haven't paid for Works Deluxe, so Works Deluxe guarantees you an empty seat. And no one's sitting next to you, but you haven't paid for that. And if you're on there and you got no one sitting next to you, and every time someone comes on, please don't sit next to me. Yeah. And then when they walk past, you go, "Oh, fuck, thank God." Yeah. And then you're hoping it's not a big person like I was, I just said to him, "Look, it's going to be a long trip for you." And it was. Yeah. But in Germany, that's where the Buttabean was made in Germany. The head of German boxing at Joseph Parker's weigh-in, It was Klitschko versus Leopai, massive event, but the undercard had their own weigh-in. The head of German boxing, they were so fascinated by me, never seen such a large tattooed Islander, Maori guy with shaved head, tattoos everywhere, looking angry and depressed. And they said to me, we want to see what you weigh. And I said, well, I do too, because every time I jump on the scale, it says error. So they dragged me through the crowd like an elephant by the trunk. They chucked me on a scale, and I weighed 178 kilos. And that's when everyone was just like shocked at how, man, this guy's so fat. You think you're at a boxing undercard weigh-in, there's abs everywhere. And then I jump on and 178 kilos, everyone's shocked. But I was just so happy. And the first time on my journey, I just realized I'd lost 30 kilos.
Yeah.
So when everyone else was shocked, I was like, yes, I'm the man. I'll take on anyone here. I'm the toughest man in the world. Come at me. And all the joy was coming out. All the hard work, I just found out it was paying off, and everyone was laughing their heads off at me. And I was just doing what you see on YouTube and movies, playing that character. And that's when Dave Higgins had the idea. I've got it. It's his light bulb moment. I've just realized what you're going to do for us. You're going to work for us. And Duco are renowned for having circus acts. They've had celebrities fighting each other, reality TV stars fighting each other, rugby versus league. They even found two little people in a pub. His brother Andrew found these two little people. I don't know what the PC word is for little people.
Little people, I think you're safe there.
At a pub, and got them to fight each other on a Duco card.
Yeah.
So they said to me, you're going to be the next Duco circus act. And we're going to roll you out before Joe Parker fights next. And you're going to do just exactly that. What you did on the stage there, you're going to do that. You're going to be the most arrogant asshole boxer that you can be, like a wrestling character. You only talk about yourself in the third person. If someone asks you, are you hungry? You will reply, Buttabean's got to eat. They call me, we're going to call you the Brown Buttabean. After the famous American guy called Buttabean, the fat white guy was a fat brown guy, so they call me the Brown Buttabean. I hated the name, and I wanted to change it, but they said, you can't now, it's got brand equity. So that was the whole premise. The premise was I had to call out whatever area Joe Parker fought on. First area that I fought on, my luck, South Auckland.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
That's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Now you're still, you talk about it with candor here, but you're still in quite a dark place mentally? Or are you starting to come out of the darkness into the light at that stage?
I was very depressed, and training saved my life. Because when I started, I started with walking. Before then, I was living at my sister's house on my niece's bed that I couldn't fit on, staring at the roof thinking, how did I fuck my life up so badly? And Mike King talks about this inner critic, and sometimes that's deafening. My inner critic was saying, you idiots, you had it all, now look, you fucking loser, you got nothing, you don't even have your kids, you should just kill yourself. Over and over, it was playing over and over in my head, staring at the wall and saying, fucking, just contemplating suicide, And I didn't listen. You have to silence that voice somehow, and you cannot do it by eating shit and doing drugs and drinking alcohol. I did it. I got up and I borrowed my sister's car, borrowed petrol money, which was humiliating, and I drove to One Tree Hill and I walked around the summit. That's it. While I was walking around the summit, I was no longer thinking about how shit my life was. All I was thinking about was, fuck, this is a steep hill. Why on earth did I choose this place? So afterwards, I had the natural endorphins of exercise running through my body. I felt a bit better. And my brain had a chance to rest so I could handle life a little bit more. So I just exercised as much as I could. I'd train 3-4 times a day just to silence up here, just so I didn't want any feeling. And when I wasn't training, I was so tired, I'd just sleep. And that's how my journey started.
Before you got wheeled out as Buttabean, had you had much boxing experience other than sort of street fights or whatever? Had you had much time in the gym as a boxer?
I had a little bit. I had a couple of just real brief. I did a bit of training through boxing. I did a corporate fight at the fight club with the 88 guys out there. I trained there. My father is close with Wayne, and I did some training there. Did my first corporate fight on one of their fight nights.
So you had some confidence. You could handle yourself.
I wasn't worried about boxing because, when you do street fights and stuff, and it's totally different. People have to understand there's some street fighters that when they're commenting, I do this and that. It's totally different. But when you've done, when you go through some real dark times like I have, you're sort of not worried about being in the ring because there's a ref, there's someone to pull the guy off you, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like in a street fight where you might get your head pummeled in and then kicked on the ground. There's no one to pull the guy off you know. So it's at least there's rules and people there. So I wasn't too worried about it.
As this character developed, he was hated, right? Buttabean,
You did a really good job. You did a really good
Were
job.
you a hater?
Yeah, big time. 100%. When you fought Lonnie Uhuila in Hamilton, I was there. I think Lonnie won. The Tongan Bear won that one.
I won one, he won one all.
Which one was the Hamilton one? You won.
Both of them were in Hamilton.
Okay.
I won one and then he won the other.
Did you win the first? Oh, yeah.
I won the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was fully like, fuck, I hope this guy gets knocked out. He's such a wind-up merchant. I had it was the public persona. You did the wrestling gimmick so well.
It was really what it was. It was a wrestling gimmick. And it was, man, people hated my guts.
Yeah.
And I was like, the first one I fought South Auckland, I called out all of South Auckland. No one tougher than Mighty Brown Buttabean in little old South Auckland. Come at me, bro. And
did you do the promos in the mirror beforehand? Did you practice them in the mirror?
No. Just
off the cuff.
It was all off the cuff. And it was just being very arrogant. And when they put that and the crowd goes wild in the paper and online, people just lost their shit. They said, who is this fat bastard?
Yeah.
Saying he's tougher than South Auckland. And I was already very depressed and hated my life, but now I had to contend with online hate. I was getting death threats. I'm going to shoot you on sight. You're a disgrace to all your people. Humble yourself. That's the most common one. Humble yourself. And I just would say, well, humble is not paying my bills at the moment. I had to do what I had to do. I knew what my purpose was, what my why is, so I just had to play it. That was my way of earning money. It was either that or sell drugs in my mind. That's it. So I chose to do that. And, the worst one I ever got was, I'm going to send you some rope to hang your family with. While I was getting all this hate, I was living on a mattress on the floor, with no money, no kids. And I just used it. Again, I encourage people, use it as fuel. I just said, I'll fucking show you guys what I can do. Trained my ass off and ate right and, surrounding myself with the right people. At the start, that means you are alone, but you start attracting the right people towards you, and that's what we've done. I understood the way media works and that Joseph Parker is the main event. Of course he is. It's his show. But I had to find a way of getting on the news and making us, getting some kind of coverage. The only way to do that was talking shit and doing things at press conferences. I just had to get some kind of publicity, And I said to my Vino, and we're in the back, and we're all friendly, I said, do you want to make the news? Right before we're going to walk out.
I could see it in his face.
And he goes, oh, yeah. And I said, because I'll tell you what, bro. He started this new company. Your new company, the hat you got on, is not going to make nothing. It's all Joe. We're not going to make it unless we do something. And he goes, oh, what do you have in mind? I said, right, I'm gonna push you. You're going to push me. I'm going to hold your throat, and then you're going to tackle me, right? And then we got to make it. So we got to make it look real, And then he goes, oh yeah. And he didn't go hard into it, And then when we were on top, and they were a bit slow to come and get us. And I'm like, fucking hit me. And he goes, no. But hey, it worked. And it got shitloads of views on YouTube, still does. And we made the news.
Yeah.
And it was,
I saw the headline here, Buttabean grabs opponent by the throat or something. Like, job done.
And, but each time I had to up it. Because people, they get, we've seen that. So each time you sort of up it. And there was no one really doing that in New Zealand fights game at that time, being this real out there, arrogant, stereotypical boxer. You know what I mean? The boxer you see or the wrestlers you see in the movies, it was before, Connor or anything. It was before that.
So you really dialed it up publicly, but privately, you're not that character at all.
No, it was hard. Obviously there's a little bit of it in me, but I really had to because I had to earn money. And I understood Duco's a business. And if I don't sell tickets, there's no point in having me. Dave at that time had a business partner with Dean Lonergan. So Dave's doing me a favor, but Dean's not going to do it if I'm not selling any tickets, why would they pay me? And why would they get me on again? So I had to keep doing more and more and more. I had a guy called Craig Stanaway was their media guy, and he loved wrestling.
Yeah.
So he loved it, creating this, helping me to do this stuff. And, but each time the next weigh-in after that, was actually after my first loss was against Kalini. And it's funny because one of my coaches said, don't let victory defeat you. And it's true in life. Start being successful. Do not let that defeat you, because that's what happened. You know, I started buying into the character, and this is me, and you know, and thinking I'm invincible. And he knocked me out my first loss, and I was going, man. And the next, I trained really hard and got myself right. And the next way, and I had to come in, and I actually came in with a SWAT team. And there was a couple of guys that were former military, so they had all the gear. So we walked from a pub up the road, or cafe up the road, to this pub where the weigh-in was in Newmarket. They're stopping traffic, and they were in full SWAT gear with the full mask. We had, it was funny because King Kapisi was one of the guys in the mask. And then I had Tux Fale, who was a wrestler, who I got a lot of hints from. He was a wrestler in Japan. He would also give me lines and how to act. And so we'd walk in, and it worked, because once I walked in, all the news just turned.
Yeah, a bit.
And I did a line that Mike King gave me. You know, I turned to the camera and said, these guys aren't here for my protection. They're here for all of your protection. And I was just like, yep, made the news. You know, it was just like, but then, you know, we turned that around. All of that, you know, the animosity and hate, we turned it, and the following we got we turned it around once people started realizing, hey, there's something more to this guy.
Yeah, so this is such a fucking epic story, because this platform we've just painted, thank you for the detail in it, allows us to talk about BBM. And this started when you started losing weight, right? As Brown Buttabean, you're starting to have this profile, and then you start using it for good. And what you've gone on to build is incredible. So you start the beginning of BBM, right?
Yeah, I mean, the beginning of it was, each fight, like my weight loss journey was being played out before Joseph Parker fights. So I'd be fighting, all my early fights were all on his cards, so they're all on TV. And each fight, I'd lose weight, you know. I think the first one, I went for my first one, I was 168. The second one, I was 140. That was against John Lomu. Bit by bit, you know, I kept losing weight. And so amongst all the hate mail I was now getting messages about, man, what's the secret? How are you losing all this weight? You know, and my Pacifica...
And still being such an asshole.
Yeah. My Pacifica people would say to me, Dave, are you sick? You know, did you have the operation? Be honest. You know, and people were hoping I'd say, you know, because I'd say to them, here it is. This is the secret. Stop drinking shit. Stop eating shit and go for a walk. That's the secret. You know, that's it. And people wouldn't believe me. They said, no, it can't be that easy. I said, I didn't say it was easy. I said, it's simple. That's it. You know, and what people would hope I'd say is take this pill, drink this potion, or stand on those machines that shake you about, you know. But it was literally, it was hard work. Just with those simple things, starting, stop drinking fizzy drinks, stop eating rubbish every day and go for a walk. That's it. That's all I did. I still treated myself once a week, but if you treat yourself daily, it's no longer a treat, it's the way you eat, you know. And so that's how I started BBM. It was a Facebook group. As a place where it was a private group I set up on Facebook called Buttabean Motivation. That's now BBM Motivation, where it's like a blog. Start off as a blog for myself, but I could send people to it, because everywhere else I couldn't let anyone know I was actually a nice guy. I played the character to a T, you know, like I was an asshole. Yeah. But in the group, I could be myself. So when people were asking for help, I said, no worries, just join this group and we could share. And so I share what I was up to. And then our first boot camp was actually just helping my father-in-law's mate out west, out in Trust Stadium. I helped my father-in-law's mate to lose some weight. It was like a couple of us there, me and my wife and a couple of friends. Out south, we started in a driveway in Papatoi, and I just thought, I wonder who else wants to come. And that's how it started.
That sounds to me like a hand up, which is what you've been lucky enough to receive from a lot of people. Did that go a ways to mending maybe some of the scarring on your soul, some of those harsh edges that you were being able to let other people into this journey that was transforming you as well?
Yeah, I really just wanted to pay it forward, you know, and it definitely feels good to help people. That reward you get, the feeling when you look at people and go, their lives are better because you exist. You cannot buy that feeling. It's amazing. But there were people like PJ that I played league with in Mararewa. He started a gym in Kingsland called Habitat for Fitness. And there was another gym with my sister called Auckland MMA, a guy called Ev Ting. He was training my sister. He let me train with her, you know, and PJ started this gym and said, man, when he saw me, he goes, "What the fuck's happened to you?" Like, man, what's happened? Because last time he saw me, I was fit playing league with him in Mararewa. And I told him, and he goes, "Man, I've just opened this gym called Habitat Fitness in Kingston. If you get here, I'm going to help you." And I turned up, and because while people can give you opportunities, like David gave me the opportunity and all these people gave me the opportunity, you have to take it. So we can help you, but you have to do the work. It has to be you. If we can't do the work for you. That's what we tell people. You have to take the opportunities and work your ass off. So I turn up there and he just invested so much time in me. All these people that invested all this time into me with no expectation of anything in return. They didn't know I was going to be doing what I'm doing now. They had no idea that this Buttabean thing is going to go to where it is now. They just wanted to help me to get my life back together. So that's all we do. I was blessed to have some people in my life that could help me, with no expectations, did it for free, just wanted to help me. And that's what we do. That's what, in BBM, Body Talk in Newmarket. That's where I started training with Mark Hunt. That's where I got no excuses from, was with Mark Hunt. Training at Body Talk in Newmarket. They didn't have a gym. They were just training this old netball or indoor cricket place. And training, Mark Hunt was doing his camps with Alex Flint. And I got blessed to train alongside them. And then one time I didn't turn up. And Mark Hunt said to me the next morning, "Where were you yesterday?" I said, "Oh, no, And he goes, "No excuses." I went, "Well, you're fucking right. There is no excuse. I was just tired and slept in. That's not an excuse." And that's where no excuses came from. So that's what we do in BBM.
So this thing has snowballed year on year on year, and it's getting bigger and bigger, and it's so impressive. And you've got this huge social following now, 300,000 on Instagram. Dancing with the Stars helps with that. Like, what is everything? Can you talk to us? I know we mentioned it briefly at the start, but everything that's going on right now and how much it's growing in the last 12 months?
Yeah. With Instagram, that 300,000, that came from James.
Yeah, really?
It wasn't Dancing with the Stars.
Oh.
It was James. I was on 40,000. I was on 40,000.
Right on cue. Right on cue. Here he is.
There he is.
The man himself.
Oh, nice coffee. Thank you, brother.
Oh, what a guy.
I was on 40,000 followers, what have we last year, at the end of 2022.
Holy
40,000. And I posted a video, James, just a random video. And it went off. Millions and millions and millions of and me and Dana, who does our content, going, "What's going on?" Like, shit, man. Like, and then we checked. I said, "Oh, it's this video. It just went viral." I did another one of James, and that's what our following was going up like 10,000 a day. But now, now it's a lot harder. You got to try and find the algorithm again. But it's
So just tell us about James's story. Why it was so captivating.
Well, it's just it's real, and this was someone people could identify with. It was a bigger guy. At that time he still weighed over 200 kilos, and he's lost 135 kilos. He started close to 300. He started as one of our participants in our From the Couch program. Now he works for us full time. But the video was just of him on the bike, on the assault bike, just grinding, and his face was just like, and you could see, but that's it. It's the work. That's what it takes. And people just saw it. It was just some random sound that I did of a motivational quote, and it just went off. But James is an inspiring guy.
And you've literally saved lives with your work. Like, that's a pretty significant.
People, there's even a guy that inspired James, a guy called Phil, who's lost 150 kilos. There's stories like this throughout, and because what we realize that sometimes when new people start, they might not even know who I am. They don't not follow the journey. They don't know any of my backstory. So when they see me, they think, "Oh, I'm too far away." Or they see other people that are too far along on their journey that they don't believe it. If they haven't seen it, right? But with James, we've got all these people that are partway through their journeys, and they can still latch onto it. And I say, "Man, he's not that far away from me. I can get there too." So
I think that that real representation is something that's really powerful. Like, as a bigger dude myself, like, you can go into a commercial gym and you see a PT and you see all these people and you're like, "Fucking hell!" Like, no chance I'm ever getting anywhere there.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's walked the path, and that's what I see amongst your membership. Is, you're right, it's people at different stages of their journeys.
We have all different. It's all fitness levels, and we started BBM, and we used to have 150, 200 people at our boot camp at one training session, and then COVID put a stop to that, but it was just every one of our leaders and our staff all started their journey through turning up to a boot camp one day with me, and that's how, and then now they work for us. So that the lived experience factor is huge. That's like when I've worked with other health coaches and people that want to, saying, "Oh, let's bring our health coaches," and I said, "That's cool, but we're not learning from you. Your health coaches come here and learn from us, because it's our lived experience that's why people believe it, and that's why we're successful. Because it's not about eating chicken and broccoli every day and to have a 6-pack to post a photo on fucking Instagram, to get likes and followers. It's about living a healthy, happy, maintainable lifestyle, and that's what we promote. And it's through guys like James, Phil, and everyone in our group.
In terms of the business expansion, like what has happened in the last 12 months, and what do you want to see in 2024?
This year, we need to find ways of other revenue streams so that we don't become we're not reliant on government contracts, because it's tough. We've created this juggernaut of an organization that it costs a lot to run. And even though, a lot to us, it's a drop in the ocean for what other organizations get funding for, but it's a lot for us to raise. So we need to find other revenue streams that go into helping more people. The more money we make, the more people we can help. We've done an Impact Lab report that showed for every $1 invested in us, there's a $13 return. So when the government Ministry of Health came, I just opened the report and said, there it is. That's the evidence, that's the data. Just give us some money. There's any social issue, you'll find a community group there doing it with next to no resource. If you just invested in those community groups, imagine the scale.
Do you have good relationships with these top tier politicians, with Jacinda or with Chris Luxon? Do you have meetings with them?
Yeah. I don't know if you call it good relationships. We have relationships with them. When it happened with Jacinda, we first, we were like, she came to visit us. This was before, I think it was before the 2000, how long were they in for? When did they have? 2017, and then what was the other one?
2 terms?
2 terms? Yeah, so it was the second term. And she came to visit us, and we were over the moon, you know what I mean? And I've always had politicians promise us so much stuff, and nothing really comes of it. You've got to try and, leverage everyone. You've got to try and leverage all of them to get what you need for your community. And it was actually Chris Luxon who said that to me before he was in. He said, you need to leverage everyone to get what you need for your people. I believe he's actually a nice guy, Chris. I've had a lot to do with him before he became Prime Minister, and he'd do stand-ups at our food share. And I understand the game, and you just try again. You let them do that so you can try and get more off them later. But I think our relationship, when I was one of the Māori leaders that signed the open letter to call out racism, and that's where our relationship stopped. Yeah, and I actually forgot that I signed it, and then he did an interview, and I texted him. I said, man, that was a good joke you just did. And his reply was, why did you sign the letter? That was his reply. And I said, well, why not? You should call out racism. Oh, we're the leader of the National Party. I said, yeah, but you're the leader of the bigger party on the right, so you should call it out. You have it's like you're the leader of something, lead by example and call that stuff out. It's not right. It's the same thing that when I've met with Mongrel Mob leaders, and I've said to them the same thing. Just because you're the leader of this doesn't mean you have to lead your people down the wrong path. Lead by example, be positive. And that's where our relationships stop, though.
Is that your leadership style, is lead by example?
Got to lead by example. You have to. You can't tell people to do something if you're not willing to do it, or if you're not doing it yourself, or you've never done it in your life. I think that's one of the reasons why we're successful. You have to lead by example.
Is there ever a future in which Dave Letele gets into politics himself?
Oh, I was contemplating it, and yeah.
That sounds like a yes, but I don't want to commit to it right now.
Yeah, it's hard, man. You know, and yeah, like I think with Christopher Luxon, I think he's a nice guy, but to make this deal to get into power, he's teamed up with Seymour, who I don't think is a nice guy, with some of the stuff that he's promoting. I think eventually I will get into politics. I did sort of, put my toes in a little with Te Pāti Māori. I support what they're doing. And I did say I was going to run for them, but BBM just wasn't ready at the time. You know, in this last election, BBM wasn't ready for me to walk away and do that and go all in politics. It still relies heavily on me, especially around connections with funding and relationships. So maybe on the next one. It's funny when I said that I was going to get into politics, the amount of people who told me not to. You know, and said, you know, you'll be wasted in there, and that you're not going to have a voice in there. They're gonna, the system will just tear you apart, and you won't. But then I thought to myself, if every good person who is community minded and works for the community and serves our people, if every good person that wants to get into politics is told that, and then don't, we wind up with shit politicians. You know, we wind up with politicians who aren't from the community, who have no idea what it's like to be poor and be broke and not have anything and go up in gangs and understand the thing about choice. And then we'll be in real shit. You know, so I think it's inevitable that I will enter into the politics arena. It's just a matter of timing. I just have to calm down. Like I have to be I know myself, I'm not calm enough yet. I'll end up being in the news for some kind of violence.
You would be an incredible politician because you're such a good orator. Like you're so articulate, but there's that authenticity behind the words. You're real. And it's so powerful. Like this has been such a captivating listen, and thank you for sharing the story. In the research for this ep, one of the most moving pieces that I came across was an interview you did with your dad, and you talked about things on camera for the first time, and it got quite emotional. And you sort of made the comment that we don't talk about these things. And I'm not sure how long ago that interview was, but I wondered what your relationship is like with him now.
Yeah, that was that Moana show interview, and that was maybe 2-3 years ago now. And I was like, yeah, as I always, let's do it. And then when we got there, and I started thinking, oh man, because it was on him. The interview wasn't on me; it was on him and his journey. It was on gangs, but I was part of it. And when we got there, I was like, I having second thoughts. It had been a tough few days, so I was sort of emotionally a bit down. And then when we did it, we've never talked about it. That was probably the first time we have openly talked about his actions and how they affected us. And I didn't think anything of it until he brought up a memory he had where he talked about when he got out, and he rang his parents, my grandparents over in Australia, to talk to them. And he said, he goes, I could just hear Dave crying in the background and yelling and wailing to come home. And it was a memory for him. But I'd blocked that out. I had not remembered it until that moment. As soon as he said it, instantly, it rushed back to me, and all the emotion, and it was overwhelming. And I started crying on the show, and I didn't actually want them to use it. And it just, because I just remember I wanted to come home. I didn't understand why I couldn't. My dad was out, and I wanted to go home to him and my mum. So it was a real tough moment. My relationship now with my father, and, I love my dad, and we're pretty close, but not close, but we're pretty close. And but I love him with all my heart, and he was an example, although it wasn't always the right example. the one thing I got out of him was work ethic. Whether it was the wrong way or the right way, he was a hard worker, and that's what I got out. And but it's he's now working with Grace, and where we fall out now is that it's the time with family, that we just don't have. So I said to him over holidays, we were in the mounts and we got a couple of little caravans down there, right? I got one for me and one for my mum and dad. It's got a awning. It's awesome, and I got it so we could spend more time on holidays together. And I said to him, we're trying to save the world and help all these people in our work that we do. But geez, I hope that when we turn around, our family's going to still be there, because you were gone for us, me and my two sisters. You were not here, and now you don't have time for my kids because you're doing all this work with Grace. I get it, I understand, but now you're not here for your grandkids. You're not here hardly any time with my kids, and he spends a lot of time with him and my mum on my sister's kids, which is fair enough because my sister's going through addictions, so she doesn't have her children. So my mum and dad look after all her kids, so they're there, but our kids are missing out. But I get it. But that's a choice, So we talk about choices. That's a choice that we're making. So that's why my resolution this year, we talked about resolutions before where I don't really have one, but one I do have is not around weight loss or all the normal ones. It's around time with my family, time with my wife and my kids, because they miss out. So any community leader knows, while we're out there serving our community and trying to save the world and trying to help as many people as possible, meanwhile, my wife's looking after all the children, and when I do get home, they get the worst of me. So I'm giving the best I have to everyone else. The best version of me is given out to the world. When I get home, I've got nothing left. I've only got tiredness and anger, things that aren't, that might not be going well, and why, you know what I mean.
So how do you do that? Do you put guardrails in? Do you put one day as family time, or do you have strategies in place?
I just try and make the weekends now. So it started with our group this year, right? We had 3 weeks off. That's never happened. In all the years of BBM's been operating, we have never had this amount of time off over Christmas. We've pretty much always worked through, but our team was falling apart. You start seeing relationships being strained within BBM, and you see people just stressed. So we just say, look, we have to take this time to look after ourselves so we can come back refreshed and look after our people. So for me, that's making sure on the weekends I do my best not to look at my phone and look at my emails, work-related. I'm still on my phone, but I'm not looking at emails or messages, because if you see a message of someone that's, that needs help, of course you're going to help. You have to. But then again, your family miss out. So I've made that conscious effort to say, look, we have to, on the weekend, spend time with the family and try and, because you can never get time back. You can't buy time back. That's way more important than material things, is actually time. So I've got a lot of work to do on that part. I'm not perfect, because sometimes, like I said, the time I'm spending, for the first part of it, I'm not good to be around at all. For the first week of our holiday down at the Mounts, I was an asshole. I was so highly strung and so like just from work and all it took to put on this Christmas. We just did a Christmas event where we helped thousands of children, as well as going to Tikawiti doing the same thing. But I was trying to get that done, and we're not paid to do it. We done it because we care, because we want to have help people. So we had to fund that. And I was so highly strung for that. For the first week of our holiday, I didn't leave our caravan unless it was to go for a walk up the mount to try and clear my head. I was not nice to be around. I didn't really swim. I was just really grumpy and short. And then I come right in the second week, So I've got to work on that and and I'm thinking about I've got to try and find out, like what you said, what are strategies, so that when I am with my family, I'm not a grumpy asshole. And man, because one day my wife's going to have enough, And people see me like, oh man, he's so amazing, and look at all these people he's helping. But I've got to be that for my family. I have to be that amazing, happy, guy for them, not the grumpy, tired guy. So that's the goal for this year.
Yeah, I did wonder the personal toll that it takes on you, not only with the work that you do, but with your speaking and the talks that you do, delving into some of that trauma from your past and bringing it back to the forefront, dealing with it, packing it away, dealing with it, packing it away. I imagine it's a challenging balancing act.
Every speech I give, I speak about all the shit things that have happened to me. So I'm reliving the moment of putting a knife in my chest. I relive losing my sister. We didn't talk about my sister, but my sister Vicky was 1 year younger than me, and she was a big part of this. She started Grace Foundation, but when, she'd let me come and train with her, and then I'd always go to her as an older brother, going to my younger sister for advice, because she was very, her faith was so strong, and her walk with God was so strong, and she was very spiritual and knowledgeable, and such a good person. Had all of my good traits, none of my bad. And I'd go to her and say, I'm over this. I cannot deal with having no money. I'm just going to go and sell drugs again. I cannot deal with this. I'm over it. And she'd say to me, Dave, just stay on the path. I can see something coming. This is before I even started boxing. I can see something coming from this fitness journey. Just stay with it. And here we are today. And she actually, for those who aren't familiar, she went to prison. She went to prison. She was trying to help low-income families get into homes, which she did. Done it the wrong way, and I never try to justify what she done. Done it the wrong way. She went to prison. Out of all of my siblings, I thought it would be me, but it was her. She went to prison, and while she was in prison, she got sick. And she got sick, and they wouldn't take her to the doctors. They wouldn't take her to the hospital. She started spewing up black bile, black, just like shit and they told her, just sleep upright. This is corrections. I fucking hate corrections. They told her, sleep upright so you don't choke. I think it was about 2 months before. Can you imagine my parents every day, every weekend going to visit her and seeing this? And they took her to the hospital after 2 months. And as soon as they got her to Middlemore, they took her stomach out and gave her 6 months to live. Just imagine if they took her when it first started, when it first happened. And then when it happened, they wouldn't let my mum be at the hospital with her. And finally, they let us in. And my sister's such a amazing person. We're bringing food, right? And I'm not giving any to these fucking guards. No, I'm not giving you fucking food. And my sister goes, oh, Davey, don't be like that. Just give them. It's not their fault. It's just a beautiful soul, Then corrections, the bureaucracy of it all, still thought that they could look after her. So no, she's not getting compassion. She's not in for murder. She's not in for, being a fucking child molester. They get home detention, Her co-offender, both never been in trouble with the law, ever in their lives. Her and her co-offender. Her co-offender got home detention. My sister got 3 years prison. What do you think the only difference was? Hey, and they say it's fucking equal. And then they said to her, my parents, no, she's not getting out on compassionate leave. We can look after her. Send her back to prison. They give her a bell to ring when she needs her pain medication. There's no fucking ringer in between the bell. The nurses fall asleep, no pain medication. And so my parents, they're trying to do all the things by the book. My parents and my uncle Ulla, trying to do everything by the book. No, let's just let the lawyers handle it. After I think the second time they declined her probation, I said, fuck this, I'm going for it. And everything, all the bad stuff I'd done in boxing and being this negative, this is when I could finally had a chance to use that profile for good, because I didn't have a massive profile, but I had a profile, and I just used it. It was like I was campaigning for being a prime minister. That's what it was like. And Duncan Garner jumped on board. Now he's a trustee of my charity. He jumped on board. He was all the talk back and all these different media people helping me who are still now my friends. So all the stuff that I do with the media now, it all come about from that.
Yeah.
You know, and we fought, and then we had a protest, and my uncle and my father said, no, don't do the protest. It's going to upset. They're going to try and do stuff to hurt Vicky and hurt the rest of the, you know, so they stopped all visitations and all these things which they thought the prison would turn on my sister, you know, but she got a call out and said, no, do it. We done the protest, and 1 week later, John Key turned the decision around. She was out, you know, and it just shows the power of the people still exists, you know, but literally about maybe 6 months later, she died. You know, but she brought about a lot of change about the way prisoners are treated. But you know, she was an amazing person, my sister, and a big part of what we do now in BBM. And her and my father started Grace Foundation.
You're big on second chances, right? Because even within your BBM family now, Manu Vatuvei, you know, has come out and is part of the program and what you're doing.
Yeah, Manu. You know, first it was Nathan Nauer. You know, got done for money laundering. It was actually. He went to prison for something else, which actually got dismissed. And when he got out, I sent him a message and I said, look, man, if you need me, I'm here. And he sent me a message. A reply was like, you know, he was going to do something silly. You know, so when I said, where are you? I went and picked him up, and I had to pick my dog up from a doggy daycare in Pukekohe. So I drove out there, and he was with me, and he goes, man, I just can't get anything. I can't get a job, no media. I've been blacklisted everywhere. I just applied for a job at a chicken coop, chasing chickens around in Papakura. I said, no friend of mine's going to work at a chicken coop if I can help it, you know. And the funny thing was, he didn't even get that job. And he said, they advertise it, we take anybody.
Yeah, really?
And he couldn't even get a job at a chicken coop chasing chickens. He thought they were discriminating him because of how big he was, that he wasn't going to catch any chickens. But, you know, I said, look, just come. You need to be around good people. You need to be around good people. Come start with us. I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to be with us. And he's turned his life around. You know, he's almost finished on home deeds. Got another, I think, 3 weeks till he's done, finished. And he can fully restart again. Manu was the same. I went and spoke at Woody Men's Prison. They took me to him, and it was hard for Manu, for him to let me see him there. But I said to him and his brother, I said, look, when you guys get out, you know, come and see me. And you got to stop hanging out with fucking idiots. You know, if you want to change, I'm here, but it's up to you. You know, so I opened the door, and when Manu got out, and he messaged me, can I come see you about working? You know, and I said, of course. And now he's works full time for us, helping in the food share, helping run our our workouts from the couch, employment programs, because people said to me, Dave, why are you hiring drug dealers? I said, I don't see a drug dealer. I see someone that can stop youth or vulnerable families becoming drug dealers, because when he's talking, people listen, because he's still a hero. You know, so it's amazing, yeah, what can happen. And I just said to him, bro, it's a massive opportunity. You got to do the mahi. You know, and then your journey, bro, it's just, you know, it's amazing. But first you've got to do the mahi. Then you can come around and you can be a public speaker like me. You know what I mean? And help youth, you know.
You can come on the podcast like you too. Come on, Manu.
Yeah, won't be long. You know, I said to him, you got to do the mahi. You do the work to show that you've changed, you know, and then all these doors are going to open up to you. Yeah, so it's powerful.
I know you're pressed for time, so one thing before we do let you go, the revenue, I'm interested in how you do make the money, and if there's anywhere we can sort of direct listeners to, or any way that people can help.
It's funny, like when we set this up, so we're setting up, and we're boxing, and then as we're going into, like, it was, you know, winter, so we'd start getting council halls, which we'd have to pay for, so we'd, you know, give a gold coin donation if you can to pay for the hall, and then I was saying, how are we going to make money? How can we do this full time without me worrying about putting food on the table, and I want it free? So we set up a charity. It was actually Dean Lonergan who got my first contract with Counties Manukau Sport, but I needed to become a trust. I needed to become a charity to get this grant funding to enable me to do this stuff. So thank goodness I set the charity up as BBB. I set a business up first, BBB Motivation Limited. No idea that I was going to be in motivation, but thankfully I set it up that way. And that was so I could invoice Duco as a fighter, invoice Duco to get things. Then I set up a charitable trust. And the lawyer said to me, you actually can't be on your trust. I said, well, what do you mean? Because it's just not a good look. And especially your background, who your father was, it's just, if you become successful, people might ask questions, so it's very important that you have a massive, you're at arm's length, right? So that's how we set the trust up, and we set the trust up as Just Move Charitable Health Trust. I put on 3 trustees, and it's run separate to the business, so if anyone, because it's amazing, if you start having nice things, in what we're doing, people ask questions. How did he get that? Is that from the charity? And unfortunately there have been, scam artists that do that. So that comes, and I understood that people ask even more questions of me because of my background. So that's why we keep it this totally separate, because even when we're applying for funding, so we got grant funding, there's even grant funders that might ask you, where else are you getting your money from? And what are you doing with our funding? And I said, well, come and look at the fucking free gyms that cost us all this money. It's not hard to see where our money goes. Our gym in Manukau cost $155,000 a year. We charge no one. It's all free. Everything we do there's free. The kitchen is I think $25,000 a year. We have a kitchen there where we run our education programs. The food bank is $30,000 a year. The Tukaroa gyms, $30,000 a year. All those things, and we don't even have a government contract that covers all of them, and it's not hard to see where our money goes, and then the business side of what I do is my app, my fitness program. That's how at the beginning, that's how I could keep everything free without worrying about government contracts, without worrying about grant funding. But as we grew, we needed more, so I have the fitness app and the speaking part of what I do. That's how I earn money. So motivational speaking to corporates. I'm signed up with celebrity speakers, and that's how I earn money. And even that, I did my first speech, I would speak for free. I would speak when people would ask me, oh, Dave, we want to try raise money for a charity. Can you come down here and speak and help us to raise money? I'd speak for dinner. I say, yep, no worries. If I can have a feed, that'll be okay, And they'd fly me to Christchurch or wherever. And I'm doing this for a feed, for dinner, And then as I started realizing, actually I'm not too bad at the speaking thing. And that came about from speaking like an idiot in boxing. I sort of didn't, because it's public speaking is the fear of what people think of you, or making a mistake. But when you're being on stage talking shit, you're sort of not really worried about that anymore.
You're immune to it.
And that's how I earn a living. And I really want to give a shout out to celebrity speakers, also essential talent, because, it was through them that I started earning good money. It was through speaking, public speaking. It's been amazing. But if anyone wants to donate, you just got to go to our website, which is the bbmprogram.com. I'm sure you put the link there.
Yeah.
And the good thing about that is every cent that you donate to us goes to where it's needed. There's no bureaucracy. It doesn't get soaked up in any bureaucrat. It goes to where it's needed, which is to the people.
Hey, Dave, I'm just going to throw to Shay soon for the wrap up. But before I do, thank you so much. Like, your story is so I really value the thing that we've created that allows our audience to hear the story in as much detail as you've given it, because it's so powerful, it's so inspirational. What you're doing now is so important, and I'm just so stoked that people are going to be able to hear this and grow from it.
No, thanks, bro. It's just when I think about the work that we're doing now, it's all about showing people, and I want the listeners to understand that it is possible, and understand that, so people that might have a bit to understand, because through understanding comes empathy, and there's not everyone's born into the same circumstances, but I want to know that I want people out there watching that are struggling, maybe struggling right now. I want you to know it's possible to get out, break these cycles, and be successful, because if we can do it, anyone can, and everything that we've got now came from helping people. Our business came from helping people. I get more speeches because the more people I help. And it's just an amazing thing. So if you can help, you should. You know, that's how we live our lives. You know, if we all live this way, if we all live by that mantra of if you can help, you should, this country will be in a better place with no judgments. If you can help, then do it.
I couldn't have said anything better myself other than to say thank you very much and good luck for the New Zealander of the Year 2024.
Yeah, man. What a story. Like, you've just heard that story. How amazing would it be to be, you know, go from that to become New Zealander of the Year?
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you, bro.